Hi, this is a video to kick off what you need to do for the task 2 part 2, which is the assignment where we're going to we started it in class. It's the one where we were talking about coming up with ideas that might help our client, Catherine Hill at Organic Food Superstore, and enable her to address her responsibilities. So I'm gonna, I guess, just bring this over here just to remind you. I definitely would recommend you start this as soon as possible. Hopefully you've already been working on it. This is the assignment. And it goes over what we did in class where we talked about her questions to us and how vague they were. And I have a link here to the analysis ready data set, the ARDS data set. That's definitely what you want to be using. Hopefully you've already been using that in your task 2 part 1. There's a link to the analysis plan, which is always good to have available and review. So let's make sure we have that handy. And I'm going to just bring that down. I also have my ARDS data open. So here in this section this is the exploratory data analysis. It doesn't say a whole lot because it's so open-ended. It can't really be very prescriptive. So all it says is strategies, questions, and hypotheses supported by exploratory data analysis will be reviewed in the body of the technical report. And those that are not supported will be reviewed in an appendix of the technical report. And so that is basically it from the analysis plan. So let's go back and go through the instructions. And this is where I said you want to go ahead and get a document and start coming up with these. And we went through that in class. We started this in class so you'd get the feel for it. We started brainstorming. At this point, there isn't really wrong or right answers. You just have to eventually find 2 right answers for each data set. So what I said is just start thinking about them. They need to somehow be connected to questions that came to us from the client. So we don't want to just make up random stuff that has nothing to do with anything. We're going to write each one out in plain English. And so let's look at how we got started with that real quick. We started writing them down. What I told you is, so here's one I wrote. Are females of certain races less likely to be customers of organic food superstores? And that was when I came up with, and my thinking is, well, maybe there's like whole demographics that they're missing, that they could increase their number of customers if they were able to identify them and market to them. So in order to do this, we're going to need race, which is categorical, and sex, which is categorical. So since they're both categorical, it's a contingency table, conditioned on race. And the reason I'm going to condition on race is optional, but I want to know, I can do it either way, but I want to go ahead and do it this way as an example. And I want to do side-by-side column charts. So down here, it says that when we do these postulates that these either strategies, questions, hypotheses that we are believing might be true, or we're just looking to see if they are, you want to always identify what are the variables you're actually thinking of. And then I said, okay, I want to make sure you guys don't cheese out and give me like 8 of the same. So I'm saying, because I do want you to know how to do all the different types of the visualizations, that you need at least one of each one of the ones listed below. And so that's the part of this that's not realistic, right? In the real world, you would just do what the best thing that comes to mind, but you need to actually look at that. And then I have in here a placeholder where I'm going to add some videos. And so we can see, I'm going to show you what I did. That I actually need to change this, because what I did is I put chapters in our videos. Okay, so the first one, are females of certain races? So we want to do a contingency table, conditions on race. So let's jump into that. So I got the ARDS data open. I'm going to go ahead and go with the ARDS data. I'm going to select all the data. So I'm going to go from B1. I'm going to make a giant rectangle in my data. I don't want to just select the columns. If not, I get tons of blanks in my pivot table. So I'm going to hold the shift key down and click on the bottom right, and that will select all the data. I did ignore the customer ID because I don't really care about that. And now I'm going to just insert this in a pivot table, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in a new worksheet. So now we have this new worksheet, and I'll slide it after the yards data, and let's call this EDA, exploratory data analysis. Okay, so the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to use race, the reduced race variable on rows. I've dragged it down to rows, and I'm going to find sex, and I'm going to drag that over to columns. And then because this is clean data and there should be no missing values anywhere in it, I can, and all the contingency table is just going to count how many records satisfy the conditions in the row names and column names. I could actually drag down anything I wanted into the values field, but it's just counting number of records. So I'll just put in count of sex. All right, so now we have Black, Hispanic, other, white. And you notice other was the one that had very few people. So I'm going to shift things around here, find that four-pointed arrow, hold down the shift key, and drag it up so that I have black, white, Black, Hispanic, white, and other. Okay, now that I have the counts of that, I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And I might as well create a new table, and I'm going to call it EDA. EDA 2. And maybe the first one I'll just call my pivot table. Maybe I'll rename these real quick. Rename this to pivot table so I know where to find it. And I'll just call it pivot. And this one I'll rename just EDA. Okay. All right. So let's see. I got this. I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to go over to my exploratory data analysis. And I'm going to paste special because it's why didn't I get it? It's really a pain to try to do charts off of a pivot table. You're way better off copying it like this, and so that way you can actually format it the way you want. All right, so here we're going to put race, and oops, and then up here we'll put sex, and over here we're going to get rid of this. I'm not going to take too much time in all this because I think you guys can figure out how to do this on your own. All right, so again, I'm just making it into looking a little bit like a table. And once we do this once, then we can format copy it into other things. Okay, so now I have my total numbers. And I can, it'd definitely probably be nice to have this all centered so it's easier to read. All right. You can keep playing with it however you like. You can shade, certain things and all that. I'm going to stop there for now. All right, so now I want it conditioned on race. So this is because I want this as percentages. So I'm going to come down here to the count of sex and do the value field settings. And I'm going to show value as and click here on the show value as because I want it conditioned by the race, and the race is on the rows. I want to show the amounts as percentage of row totals. So I'll hit OK there. Okay. So now that I have this, I'm going to copy it over to my exploratory data analysis table. And again, paste special. And I can copy the two top rows to this one. And I can then copy the whole thing and use the paint on the home tab. I can use the format painter and paint this whole thing. And then I can turn these into percentages. All right. So what I want to do, so that's a contingency table conditioned on race because that's set as rows. So if I look at blacks, I can say, okay, 52% were female, 48% were males, and I can do the same thing with each one of these, and it tells me the percentage for that. Given that you are a black customer, what's the probability or proportion that are female and which ones are male? So that's just one way to do this. You just have to make sure you're interpreting it correctly. In here, I say I want to do side-by-side column charts to visualize this. So I am going to take my inner data, not the grand totals, and insert a column chart side by side. Okay. So here is my side by side. I'm going to add the data labels, and I'm going to add the axis, the vertical axis, primary vertical. And I think it's obvious that we're talking about race in the horizontal. So the less you can put, but be totally clear, the better. Okay, so here I'm going to click on the axis title and I'm going to put proportion of sex. Okay, and so here we can say sex by race, sex proportion if you prefer, sex or whatever you want. Okay, now so what I said is in the instructions, you have to look at your exploratory data analysis. Once you have it, then once you make it all the way pretty as you want to make it, so let's assume that's as pretty as I want to make it, I'm going to copy it. I'm going to come into my Word document, and I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to paste it in here. And so here I'm going to say my conclusion. So I can say, for example, Hispanic females are only 28% of Hispanic customers. Now, there are other positive postulates in this bar chart that maybe you will see. There's other ways to interpret everything. As you can see, we have far fewer females in general, if you look up here on the totals, versus males. So maybe these percentages aren't really as helpful as we originally thought. So this is where we would maybe want to tweak it. We'd say, well, you know what? These percentages are so low, it doesn't really help me. Maybe what I really want is this conditioned on sex. So let's switch this around. So again, this is why this is a work in progress. This is a work in progress as you go. So let's say sex. So we'll set as columns. And we'll go in here and we'll go ahead and delete this. And we'll delete this because we're going to change it. There's nothing, I could have kept that and gone on. I just want to make, my brain is naturally thinking what's the most useful thing for Catherine Hill, and I'm thinking that, sure, that satisfies a homework requirement, but it doesn't really help you develop your abilities to contribute to a team in a business setting, unless you're really trying to engage with this at a little bit more serious of a level. So let's think about this. It really, there's fewer females than males, so it really is going to make more sense to have these proportions by sex. So let's go back to our pivot table. And now we're going to go into the values down here. And all we need to do to fix that is change the show values by to percentage of column totals. And when we hit OK, we'll see we'll get 100 on the bottom. So now I'm going to copy this over to exploratory data analysis and paste special. And now copy the top two rows here. And then I'm going to copy the whole table's format with the paintbrush. And that'll be nice and set it up for me. So now I have male and female broken down by how much in each race they are. So now let's go ahead and make another column chart here. I'm going to do side by side again. And, and I noticed that the auto default that I got out of Excel is to give me the rows as my grouping variable, and then to give me my side by side column charts in this way. And that's actually wrong, because whatever you're conditioning on, and so if I'm getting the totals by column, then that's what needs to be my grouping variable on my horizontal axis. Okay. So I'm going to go up here, I'm going to switch column and row. And this is going to give me that information the way it was created to go in the pivot table. All right, so now I have a very different looking bar chart. I'm going to use this one and copy it over into my postulates. Oh, and this was supposed to be set as columns. I don't know what happened. Right. So when I look at this, and now I think about this, there are females of a certain race less likely, and it appears that again, Hispanic looks very low amongst just, if you focus just on the females. That's only 15%, and other is the Asians and other races that we group together. But that looks generally pretty low. So what we can say so what we're saying here is Hispanic females are proportionally low. And other than whites or blacks. Maybe white or black female customers. Okay, so I would say that this is a positive finding. We have a signal. It looks like it does appear that females that are amongst the female customers, there's less Hispanics than the other of the three top types of customers broken down by race. Okay. So what I wanted to show you was that, let's say I didn't remember how to do a contingency table, and I didn't remember how to do all this, but I just then showed, I want to make sure you're clear that if you go into our Brightspace page and you go to the exam 2, task 2, class videos, so this is in content, coming down to exam 2, and then exam 2, task 2, class videos. And in here, you'll see that there is a visualizing data part 1 and visualizing data part 2. Okay. And in those videos, there are chapters. So if you open up the little description, there are chapters, so you can find where the contingency tables are discussed. And then there's the by row and by column conditional probability distribution table, which is what that is, a contingency table. that's a conditional probability, given that you are either considering a specific row or a specific column. So when you are playing the video, if the chapters show up, they're a little hard to read because the background on the Excel is white, but it's showing up here as you go through it. The other way you can get to it is if you wanted to do like the by column, you just click here, and it automatically is going to take
now, once you select the stick
to that location in the video. Those videos are going to be referring to data that's in the data tab. So if you want to follow along in the video to make sure you know how to do everything, there's the correlations data, the chapter 4 visualizations parts 2 data, and maybe some of the index match might be used as well, I believe, in certain visualizations in those videos. All right, so let's keep going. All right, so if you were going to be sort of keeping track of what's going on here, you would maybe say, okay, we did a contingency table, conditional probability by columns, and the bar chart that we did was a side-by-side. So if you're keeping track, that's what we've done so far. So let's see what the next thing is that we could look at. Are college-educated customers a higher proportion of gold members? So in this case, we have to do a contingency table conditioned by membership level, which we had said we'd set as columns, but we already switched this one up here. So maybe what we would do here is we would just switch this around and let's pull membership up, and we'll make that rows in our pivot table. And you can, again, go and then that would be the contingency table. And you would look at that one and decide if you needed to tweak what you wrote. You could also say it was a negative one. Kind of have it like you have the right at this point to brainstorm and look for something. Or you can say, okay, that's a dead end. I'm not going to even look at that one anymore. Okay. The next one is customers with larger households size spent more in 2020, and this differs by college education. So this is a scatter plot with color. So in order to do this, I need to get household size, spending, and college and I'm gonna, if I go in here and I say, okay, how do I do that? I'm gonna go back over to my videos, and I look in here and I want to see if this is listed. So I would like to see a scatter plot. So that one's on here. So there's a second video, and I'm going to do the same thing. And there's a scatter plot with colors for categorical variable values. So I would definitely come in here and I would remind myself
the next thing we want to talk about is
how you do that, and I want to learn how to do it. So remember, you don't want to just know how to do this at the level where you're pausing, doing it, pausing, doing it. You actually want to learn how to do it. So I would recommend you try and do it on the data that is in the example, and then after you do that, see how much of it you can do on the Catherine Hill Organic Food Superstore data. Right. So I know, like for this one, what I'm going to need to do is, and let me get my thing up. Okay, so we're going to want to do, and I'm skipping 2. So number 3, we're going to need to get data broken up. But I know because I made the video and I know how to do this. So you might have to review the video first, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to need to get some of the data. So I'm going to create a copy of the ARDS full data. So I'm going to just create a copy and put it in front of the Mills data. And I'm going to call this, excuse me, I'm going to call this the by college, because that's what I'm going to need to break this down by. So when I come in here, I'm going to find college, the variable college, and I'm going to set this. And notice that once I have it broken down by college, I want household size and spending. So I'm going to start with no college, and I'm going to get in here. I'm going to find household size and spending 2021. So I'm going to select household size and spending 2021. I know is the second one. So I'm going to hold down the control key and select these two columns and copy this. And I'm going to come over here to the far right, give myself a little space, and I'll just go ahead and put these here. I believe when we hit data, and we have everything here. Okay, so then I'm going to go back, and we're going to move this data around and make it nice in a second. So that was college, no college. So let's make sure we're clear that this is no college. And then we're going to create another little subset where we're going to have college. Maybe we can say college educated. Let's align those a little bit better. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. Let's come over and get the college, and this time we're going to click on yes. And notice unknown is so few, we're not really going to analyze that. We didn't want to, we could, we just didn't want to, when we were cleaning our data, we didn't want to assume that that was either. So in a way, it's like we deleted the data, but we kept the records for other variables. Okay. Not ideal, but it's what we're going to do here. So now I want to get the household size and spending 2021 filtered to college being yes. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put it in the same place. And I'm going to go back over to data and I'm going to clear my filter. So let's just get these up on the same level. So let me delete, shift cells up. Okay. So these are all on the same level now. And actually that's all that I needed from this data set for right now. So technically, if I wanted to, I could just get rid of all this and pull everything up. You don't have to go crazy doing this kind of stuff, but if you just feel more comfortable having it all in one place, then that's great. Okay, so now that we're here, we are going to do a scatter plot. So I'm going to select that data, and this is in the video, so I don't want to spend too much time doing this because you can certainly see how to do that. I just wanted to get you set up on how to do this. Edit this, we're going to call this college. And series, I'm going to go here and series. So what we're having is an overlap, and I don't know in other software programs. Yeah, so there's a way to move them, to wiggle them so you can actually see them in most other software programs, but I don't think Excel is going to let me do this. So this exploratory data analysis is really hard to do. Maybe we can, maybe doing markers. So maybe for, all right. And transparency is 0. Huh. Color is wrong. Let's keep the color orange. Okay. So let's say we go with that. And then for the other ones, this is going to be a little tricky because they're all right on top of each other. So I think the bottom line is, I just zoomed in to try to grab one. Oh, that's not, orange is not college educated. College educated apparently is this blue one right here. So let's go and get the markers for that. I'm going to try to set those markers. Oh, wait. It's very confusing. I got the circle for the other one. Let's see if I can get the circle. Maybe if I made the marker really small. Ah, that's actually working. Maybe that's just the way, what I'm gonna do. Okay, so we have these little tiny orange X's and we have the blue circles, and let's see if we can get a legend on here. This legend needs to go to the bottom. That helped. Okay. I think we can try putting a trend line in here. For no college, not college educated, and maybe another one. Oops. College educated. So in either case, let me see if I can get the second one on here. In either case, this is a helpful but negative result, right? So let's get, you'd want to make it all pretty. You got to add, label your axes. So that, label the axis. So maybe that was spending in 2021. Oops. And this axis here is household size. Okay. And so what we thought, or what we postulated, somebody came up with this one, was that customers with larger households spent more in 2021, and that this would be a difference between college educated and not college educated. So what we could say is no apparent, right? So we're going to interpret now what we're looking at. We'd say no apparent influence of household size on spending, right? Those are flat, but notice the amount of spending is really flat as we go across on these different household sizes. But notice that we could pull out of this a positive postulate because it's very small, but it does look like the line for college educated is higher up than the line for no college. So we could, so this is a negative, so we would say, and I believe, I would say this is a negative finding. So you may or may not want to do this here or add it at the bottom. You could just come up based on what you're seeing here. We could tweak and add another postulate at the bottom, right? So we could come up, so we might, like I said, we might end up coming up with more than 8. So let's say we come up with formatting in Word is sometimes annoying, but okay, let's just say that we could postulate that college educated customers that spend more than non-college educated. As I see that, so then I would do a whole nother more in-depth EDA here. So here we would have, oops, we would say college. I would say that's categorical. And we would have spending 2021, and that's numerical. So how do we look at, and this just hints at something that's not the right way to view what we think is a signal. So the exploratory data analysis that we would do here would be what we would do for one categorical and one numerical. And if you recall, that would be side-by-side box plots, or what we would call multiple box plots. So if you don't remember how to do that, or you haven't learned how to do it yet, I would recommend then that that's when you would want to go over to the videos and look for multiple box plots. So there it is right there in that video, and learn how to do that. And then you'd go ahead and do that. So that is the process by which you would be moving through these questions. And again, I'm not going to do them all. How to do every one of these is in the videos. And if you are stuck on one of the videos or you need more help, please come see me. My goal is that you actually are thinking as a employee of, you're actually working for this client for money, that you have a responsibility, you're under contract, and that your reputation, your job, everything like is riding on this. You want to actually contribute intelligently at this brainstorming stage. This is where we're looking for ideas that then we're going to try to substantiate with either hypothesis testing or linear regression. Okay,